Hi, this is Trinesha and welcome to this channel. Today is day 27 of 30 Days of Purpose, and right now we have a really cool guest coming on pretty soon, and we're going to talk about the right way to heal. So I know sometimes you'll hear people say things like, oh, healing is this or healing is that, or oh, I just don't want to have to go through all of this to heal. It just seems so difficult for me. I don't know if I could do it. And let me tell you straight up before we really get into this, healing is not for the faint of heart. Healing is something that really does take real time, and you have to really be about that life. Like, you can't just be like, all right, I'm just going to do this today just because I feel like it. You really have to intentionally say, okay, I want to heal because you want to heal because you want to be better for the person who comes up next. Maybe you want to heal because in the past you've done things the wrong way, or you went about it the wrong way, or you started to heal through seeking the next thing that was going to be temporary satisfaction. You were thinking, okay, if I do this, this will be good. If I just go here to heal, this thing in the past used to fulfill me. And so I'm going to go where I was in the past because it just seems easy. And it always seems more difficult to take the easy route all the time. Like, every time that you are thinking about making a choice in life, the good things, the things that really mean more, the things that are the right decision always seem harder. When you have to be nice to that person that's mean to you, you're like, oh, I gotta be nice to this person after they did this to me. Really? And you're like trying to make up excuses of why you shouldn't do the right thing. You're trying to make excuses why it doesn't seem like it's the right thing, or why this person doesn't deserve your forgiveness, or why this person doesn't deserve this money or this opportunity. But it's not up to us. Revenge is mine, says the Lord. That belongs to God. It does not belong to us. So we have to really think about what it is that we want in our lives. Like, do we just want something easy that's going to be quick and and quick and easy satisfaction, temporary satisfaction, or do we want something that's going to be real? Like, do we really want the true blessings, the true favor that God can give you on your life? Because when I think about the things that God does for me, He does His best work when I'm humble. He does His best work when I'm graciously serving and I'm intentional about the things that I'm doing in my life. When I am ungrateful, when I am not seeking God's face, that's when it's the most difficult for me. That's when I really have the most trouble trying to do the things that God intended for me to do in my life. And so today, when we start talking about why you should heal or the wrong way to heal, it is really important for you to understand that healing takes real work. And yes, the tips that we give you are going to be so helpful because it's going to allow you to see it's not just you. You're not just going through this alone. It's not just something that's just you're the only person who's ever going to have to deal with this. You're the only person who's going to ever have to go through this. But maybe seeing me and this guest going through it, then it'll really help you be able to go through it as well on your own and be able to know and learn, like, okay, I went through this, but this happened to me, but God, God really has allowed me to make it through so many things in my life I never thought I would ever go through or make it through, let alone make it through. Like, let's be real. I like to sit here and pretend like, it's no big deal. Like, really, some of the things that I went through, I'm like, oh yeah, I made it through that, but I made it through it because of God. I didn't make it through it on my own. It really took the grace of God to get me through a lot of those things that happened in my life. It was not just my doing. Like, if it was up to me, if I had to go through it alone, there's no way I could have, would have, or should have made it without God at all. It's just not a possibility for me to be able to make it through anything without God. And so when you're going through life, when it gets difficult, when you don't know where to turn, when it seems like everything around you is going wrong, when it seems like you just don't see how, know that God got you. Know that God is going to come through. It's going to be okay. So, when we get started, before we get started, I want you to really take a moment and think about what it is that you want to do in your life. If you could think of the best version of yourself, what would that look like? Would it look like you, and I know sometimes we like to go straight from material objects and things, but what does the best version of you look like? What do you smell like? Like, you got that fragrance that you smell when you're in the mall and you're like, okay. Like, if I wore this fragrance, I'd be living my best life, And so, what does that fragrance smell like? And it could be Bath and Body Works, it could be Macy's, it could be any store, right? And of course, this isn't sponsored, but it could be. And so when you are in the mall and you smell that fragrance, what is that smell that's like, oh man, like I'm that girl when I smell like this, or I'm that guy when I smell like this? That's the fragrance that you should be thinking of you having at your best. When you think of your hair, how do you wear your hair? You don't have to get your hair done every week. You don't have to be that person. But I mean, maybe the best you is you getting your hair done every week. What is that? How much does that cost in expenses? How much are you willing to pay for that type of thing? Are you going to be willing to do something like that? Is that something that you would really want? Is that something you'd be willing to work for? Okay. So something that really helped me is I read this book called Healing for Black Women, or it was something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. It said Black Self Care and Healing for Black Women. If I remember, I will post it down low in the description so that you can read it as well because it's so beneficial. I was going through with one of my therapists and through BetterHelp, and she gave me this example of different like templates, different things to read, different booklets, everything. And so this is one of the books that she assigned to me, and it really helped me do some like self reflection. It really helped me determine what it is that I needed to work on, things that I resonated with that made me feel like I wasn't alone, which is why I thought this video was so important because sometimes when you know that you're not the only person that's going through it, it really helps you make it through the journey better. And so as I read through this book, the book started talking about what is it that you would tell your best self if you could ask any question you wanted to. Like if you can go up to the person and you see them dressed in the outfit that is like a dress that you would just do anything for. You see them with their skin glowing, you see them with this car that you always dreamed you'd drive, or in this job, like what does that position look like? Really think about all of those things and what you aspire to have in your life, and imagine yourself asking the better you, the best version of you, those questions. What would that conversation look like? But what is it going to take for you to get there? And that's the start. That's where I started. I had one day where I was sitting there and I wasn't dressing frumpy, but I would just wear like a t shirt and jeans with none of my like fashion senses or anything like that in it. And so I'd be sitting there and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to wear this with this. And, that's it. I'm not really worried about it. And one day it was my birthday and it was like along that healing journey. And I was like, oh, I feel amazing today. It's something about birthdays when you do your makeup, you got your hair done a certain type of way, you wearing a certain type of outfit, and you just feel real good, right? And I was like, why can't I feel like this every day? And you can feel like this every day. You just have to put an effort into what it is that you're wearing. You have to take the time. You have to really think about how you want yourself to feel. So when I get dressed in the morning, I don't think about how Bob, Jane, and Jack are going to feel about my outfit. I think, do I feel comfortable in this outfit? Do I feel confident in this outfit? Is this something that displays the style that I want to portray? Or am I coming off as like the woman that I want to present myself as? If I leave the room and people are talking about me, what is it they're saying? Not that I care about what they're saying, but it's about what I believe about myself. So if I'm saying I'm leaving the room and what I believe about myself is, wow, she really cares about her appearance. She cares about her mental health. She cares about her skincare. She cares about her nails or whatever it is. She really cares about taking care of herself. And in turn, people treat you completely different because you treat yourself better. That's one of the biggest lessons that I learned through this healing process is that when you know how to treat you, other people will have no choice but to treat you better. They could try to treat you badly, but when you gain a certain amount of self-esteem, you start to learn how to just remove people from your life that don't want to celebrate you or don't want to treat you the right way. So when I meet people, some people will say, "Oh, you're still single. I can't believe it." Or, "Oh my gosh, you're single." And I'm like, "Yes." And so when I say that and people say things like that, I'm like, it's not that I'm single because I can't be with someone, it's because I refuse to settle. I'm not going to settle for anything less than what God has for me, period. And it's not just like I'm on a high horse. It's but God. If God hadn't shown me what love truly was, I wouldn't know how to love myself. If I hadn't taken the time to really do self-care, to really go to therapy, to really talk to a life coach, to really figure out what my goals were, to make small changes every single day until I got a bigger goal, until I did things that really changed my life, changed my mind, my perspective. I started to educate myself. I started to read more. Like, I love reading anyways, but at some point I had stopped. And so the more information, the more knowledge I obtained, the more I started to grow, the more I started to see my mental capacity expanding. I could see myself starting to become more intelligent. My verbiage, the communication that I use was a lot better. The more I started to deal with my emotions and past trauma or past things that I've experienced, I started to become more emotionally intelligent. And those are things that it really does take real time to be able to do. You can't just say, okay, I'm gonna go to therapy one day and be healed. You gotta really dig deep. And it's hard. It took God and my support system to get me through it. It was not like oh, I'm by myself, I'm self made kind of thing. It was no, God, help me make it through this. It was no, God knew what type of people I needed in my life to help me through this. It wasn't just a me thing, it was a God thing. God just kind of knows. He knows our heart. He knows what it is that will heal us, that will help us, that will fix those broken pieces of us. He knows what it is that we need to build to be a better person. And sometimes we don't know what that is. Sometimes we don't know what that even looks like. Like for me, I had no idea where to start. I I'm going to tell you a little bit about my quick testimony and I'm going to try not to make it too long. But I was in a long term relationship for about 15 years where I lost myself and I really felt like I didn't know who I was anymore. And my parents, they allowed me to go on this trip, and I know you think it's superficial or whatever, but the first thing that happened was my birthday. I knew like on my birthday when I didn't have help with setting up my party and it was in the middle of the 19 that it was over, but I still wanted to try because I just felt like 15 years, we put this limit on time, like that's gonna make up for you being treated right, and it really didn't. And so after that, my parents they allowed me to go on this trip, and it was like a mini trip close by, and my dad was like, "Okay, you can get what you want with in this vicinity or whatever," and I got things that I never imagined I would own in my life, and I know, like, to people, it really doesn't seem like it means that much because it's a material object. But to me, it was just like, wow, my parents think that I matter this much. And I have been settling for nothing. And I really felt like everybody in a relationship, everybody in life was just miserable. I didn't know that I could get more. And so when that happened, it really made me think, wow, maybe there is more to life. Maybe I don't just have to live like this. I could really have more in my life. And I started going to therapy with the guy that I was with at the time. He really didn't want to go, but I went anyways, which led me to the therapist that I have now, which helped me heal in so many ways through like childhood trauma and everything else. And before I went to therapy, I went to God. I was really on the ground in tears. I felt like I had no other options. I tried it my way. I did the things that I wanted to do in life and nothing worked. But God, you know, God told me to get up off the floor. He said, get up. And I said, God, I don't know what to do. I need you. And he was there instantly. Like, it wasn't like a second thought. It wasn't like you did all these things in the past. It wasn't like, oh, you're not good enough. It was like, no, I got you. Get up. God told me to get up at that moment, and he introduced me to different videos like in the algorithm on YouTube everywhere. The first video that came up was Sarah Jakes Roberts' Girl Get Up. And it was so ironic that God was telling me to get up, and then this video was the first thing that showed. And I heard that speech, and it lit something inside of me that helped me be able to stand on my feet, and from there forward, it's like everything I needed, education wise, people, just my family surrounded me like never before. Like, and my friends were there calling, checking on me. They didn't even know I was going through this internally, and God knew what I needed. Oh, I wish I could not cry when I talk about God, but when He really saves your whole life, you can't help but to give Him all the glory, honor, and the praise. You know what I'm saying? And I can't imagine my life without Him. I can't imagine doing anything without Him. And healing, if I had to do it alone, there's no way I would have made it. You know? Oof. I think the guests should be hopping in shortly. They said that they are coming in. So let me make sure they can get in good. Okay. Well, looks like that's on there. And it is pulling up. Let me just make sure. Okay. It looks like we're good. Now I just have to make sure that it goes in. There we go. All right. So I want to thank you so much for joining me. The guests should be in shortly. If there's any questions that you have, please drop them in the comments below. Anything that you've been struggling with, anything that you've been doing in your process to heal, or if you haven't started your healing journey, let me know. And I'm really here to help. So if there's anything that I can do to help anybody, I will do the best that I can to answer your questions, to help you in any way. So just let me know if you need anything. And also, I know we were really getting into that testimony, but whenever I talk about the goodness of God, whenever I talk about God helping me, it's just like, wow. Like, even for me, God did that. Like, even for me, God would change my life. After all my mistakes, after everything that I've done wrong, God was really like, I'm going to really help you. God was really like, oh, you need me? Okay, I got you. Mm, I wish, I wish I could say it like I feel it. Like, you don't even understand. Let me see. It looks like we're good. Okay. Yes, it was not easy. It was definitely not easy to take a step back. I'm the type of person who's over analytical, and I just like to have my hands in everything. And I really just had to be like, okay, God, I trust you. Whatever it is that you want to do, I trust you. I don't know what you're doing on the inside of me. I don't know what you're doing in my life, but I know that if you're in control, everything is going to be okay. I know everything will be fine with you. So it definitely wasn't easy, but it was necessary. And thank you for saying that. I really appreciate you saying that. Okay, it looks like the guest should be loading in now. Let's see. I just hit add. Okay, it looks like we're all set up. Let me just make sure that it's on there. Okay. Thank you for bearing with me and your patience and everything. It is so cool to have people like you rocking with me. I got my little list here, so we are good to go. There we go. I got that. And let me know if this is your first time joining with the live. Okay. All right. It looks like, all right, technical error. There we go. There we go. Okay. It looks like it came up, but when it went to pull them in, it didn't pull them all the way in. But technology. We just bear with it and keep on rolling because that's how you got to do. Life is always unexpected. And even my life, the way that I thought that things were going to go, none of those things happened the way that I thought they were. Like, I don't know if all women are like this, but for me, I was like, by this age, I'm gonna do this. Then after that, I'm gonna have this, and I'm gonna be married by this age. I'm gonna have a car. I'm gonna live in this type of house. I'm gonna do this type of thing. And I had like five different career paths that I was gonna choose in my life. And God was like, no, I got other plans for you. So it's always that saying that I hear, or I used to hear back in the day, tell if you really want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans. Like I feel like that's how it is for real. Every time I'll be like, oh yeah, then after I do this, I could do X, Y, and Z. And God's like, yes, waiting on God's timing is a career for sure. Because sometimes you just want it right now. You're like, God, can I just have it right now? Like for me, like when I first became single, I didn't want to be in a relationship. I was like, I'm good by myself. I could be like Apostle Paul. Maybe that's what God wanted because I'm all focused. And then God was like, you're gonna be in a relationship. And I was like, oh, okay. Then soon as he said it, I was like, oh my gosh. All right. Well, God said this, so I need to be obedient to God. And immediately I was like, I'm gonna be in a relationship right now. Like in my head, as soon as God said you're gonna be with somebody, I was like, okay, tomorrow I'm gonna meet the person and be in a relationship. Then I quickly realized, okay, God is not ready for me to be in a relationship yet until the person comes along. So I was like, okay, God, it's on your time. But for real, in my head, I was really like, okay, God said it, bet. I'm gonna be in a relationship tomorrow. And God was like, no, we got some work to do. We gotta make sure we get you pruned. We gotta make sure we squeeze out all the oil that's in you. We gotta break off some things that you struggled with in the past. Like you got a whole process you gotta go through before I get you this man because I'm not gonna send you my child like this. And I was like, you're right. You're absolutely right, God, because oh yeah, absolutely. You said 20 years and it didn't happen until you surrendered being single. Yes. That's I thought I would never struggle with that. Like now I feel like I'm in contentment, but during my single season, I have reached a point, like in the past year, like last year, I struggled a little because I had met this guy. I know I'm divulging a lot of information, but I feel like the best way to help people is to be transparent, or the best way for people to see who you truly are is to be transparent. And so last year, I really liked this guy, and I was like, "Oh, this is the guy." And then when it didn't work out, it was really hard for me to be content being single because, like, I wasn't ready at the time. But when I got ready, immediately he was in a relationship. And I was just like, you know. So I struggled during like that first week or so, just feeling like, oh my gosh, being single is like, it's not cool. But before then, I had a lot of fun being single. And now I feel like it's really all up to God, anyways. So I could either in this season be like with a mean like face feeling like ungrateful, or I could just be content and grateful with where I am, because regardless I have to wait, so why not wait with the best attitude, So yeah, I really was like, okay, got it. But yeah, 20 years is amazing. That is so awesome. I'm so happy for you. Every time I see somebody that's married or in a relationship or happy, I do this thing, and hopefully it's not too weird, but I pray over their relationship that they continuously seek God and that they continue to grow closer in their relationship. And I know it sounds weird for a single person to say that, but it just makes me so happy seeing other people happy. And when I see them being faithful to God and really just staying focused and getting the things that God promised them, it's like, okay, if God did it for them, I know He's going to do it for me as well. So it's so encouraging to hear that, and so inspirational. I really appreciate you sharing that. Yes. Amen. Absolutely. I sent another link forward, so it should allow them to hop in. Let's see. Yeah, because the first one just is for share. Okay. Looks like we're good there. This is, excuse the technical difficulties. This is my very first time doing a group live with me adding another person. And so usually you just click the link and then you just add someone. And I did do like a few tests just to make sure that I could pull people in, and it did work very well, but we're in, I think, different time zones. So okay. I just want to make sure. Yeah. So their time is an hour behind. So that's why it's taken a little time for him to get on, because I didn't realize we were in two different time zones that he was, you know, but it's all good. It allowed me to be able to get to know some new people. It allowed me to be able to share my testimony, which I love doing, because it really, whenever God does something in your life, I feel like it's always good to share the blessings that you receive, because you never know who can be touched by your testimony. You never know whose story could change by what it is that's happened in your life, or what it is that God's doing in your life. And so it's just so amazing being blessed. It's so amazing allowing God to be able to use me as a vessel for the kingdom, because I wouldn't see it any other way. I can't even imagine not living like this now that I do. It's so weird. If someone would have told me years ago, you're gonna be in church on Sunday and going to Bible study, and you really gonna be about that God life, I would have said, You are crazy. Like, what are you talking about? And now, like, I can't imagine going back. I can't imagine living the way that I used to live. I can't imagine doing any of the things that I used to do because it never fulfilled me. It was never anything that really filled my soul. And I think that's only something God can do. I used to look for this fulfillment in so many different things, thinking that it was ever going to fill me up, and nothing was anything compared to God. It never made me feel like, okay, this is it. And in the past, if I could be real, I would always think that a guy was going to fill me up the way that God does. And no man ever could, because nobody could be God but God. I think it's so amazing the way he teaches you stuff, because he doesn't let you have things on your time. It's always on his time. And then he allows you to be able to learn it for yourself. So it's not like and I told you so. It's a like you needed to go through this to see it this way. And when he shows you and you make it through it, it's like, oh, I had to go through that, or I had to make these choices so that I could end up right here. I never thought God could use me, but he could use anybody, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done in the past, no matter what decisions you made or how far off track you went. He could use everything, and everything for the good of the kingdom. You know, it's just so amazing. It really is. So, how did you meet your husband? Were y'all high school sweethearts, or because I saw the picture and I was like, you look real young. Oh, serving at church. Yes. Mm, that's what I'm talking about. And what's funny is that I hear people say all the time, when you're serving, that's when you meet the person. When you're doing what it is that God wants you to do, that's when everything just falls into place. And I, yes, no way. There is no way that you're a little under 50 looking that young. I'm gonna have to learn your secret. So you're gonna have to put in the comments a skincare regimen, or I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna have to learn how to do this because I'm trying to look like that. Yes. That is so awesome. Oh my gosh. Yes. You like to say that you were both running to Jesus and ran into each other. Oh my gosh. That is amazing. I have these moments where I'm spending time with God, and he will say things, and he'll say, this is what I want you to have, or this is what I have for you in your life. And I don't have like a timeline on God, but when he tells me certain things, I start to tear up because I'm like, me? I'm still in disbelief of some of the things that God does in my life. And nobody writes a love story like God. You know, his love story is above anything that you could ever ask, think, or imagine. Like, I know it's biblical, but still, you hear those scriptures, and it's sometimes you've heard it all your life, and you're thinking, okay, well, yeah, I heard this before, but when you really feel it, when God is really doing those things in your life, it's totally different. It hits different when God really is working in your life. It really hits different when God uses your testimony to help somebody else. It hits different when God uses your love story to inspire someone else, or when you are serving and you meet your husband, or you are serving in a video and you meet interesting people who God allowed you to hear their testimony, to hear their story and inspire you. And it's so funny because whenever you go somewhere to help somebody else to serve, it's like you get more out of it than they get, because it's like, oh wow, I came here to help at this church or help at this event or something. And God's like, I'm gonna bless you. So a person will come up and they'll tell me their story or something, and it's like, wow, I had a question about this and this person answered it for me. I had talk to God about this, and this person really helped me see things the way that God intended, or whatever it is. And I just think it's so crazy, so amazing. Not crazy, but amazing how God really does use everything to help you, to bless you. And I can't imagine it any other way, you know. Okay, got it. Okay. All right. And looks like we're good there. Yes. All right. So it looks like he's having some trouble logging in, and he couldn't get the link to activate, which is fine. We could always reschedule if we need to, but his story is so inspiring. When I saw his live, he's part of the community that I'm in. It's WIWA and the Wealth Accelerator Program. And when I saw one of his videos, it was like the male version of my story almost. Like it was so similar. And I was like, this is so interesting to hear a male perspective on how he healed, because my healing process might be different than, each woman's healing process will be different, but it's also great to hear a male's healing perspective as well, because on my videos, there's men and women that watch it. So it would be cool to have a guy hop on that could tell their side of the story and things that they struggle with or things that they went through as well, because then maybe we could team up, because I really do believe that division is the adversary. I think that us working together, us really encouraging one another is really everything. When we lean into helping each other instead of tearing each other down, when we see somebody get blessed and we're like, okay, blessings are in the neighborhood, instead of, oh, that person took my blessing. Listen, I know there is absolutely nothing that any other person could ever take from me or you, because it's what God graced for us. So when I see someone else blessed, when I see someone else doing something, being successful, whatever else, I think, oh wow, if God did it for them, God can do it for me as well. If God is giving out marriages, I'm next. Hey, how are you? It looks like it was on and then it went off. Okay. Okay. He said that he didn't know that he was in. He thought he was still not able to get on the thing. Okay, that's fine. We got this. Whenever it's technical difficulties or things like that happen, I'm like, oh yeah, this is supposed to happen. Because when I was doing some of the things that God told me to do in my life, there were so many roadblocks. There were so many distractions and things that try to stop me from being able to do what it is that God placed on my heart for me to do. And I don't know about you, but when the adversary tries to do something to stop me, I feel even more motivated, because I'm like, if he's trying this hard to stop what it is that God placed on the inside of me to do, then I know it's gonna help somebody. And I gotta keep going. I really feel like that's how you know you're headed in the right direction. When all of these things come out of nowhere to try to just make you feel like there's no way that you could do it. When these things come up and it's like, oh, well, you thought you could do this, but I'm going to make sure that this happens. He said he didn't realize either. We were on two different time zones. Yeah, that's true. I was like, oh man. Yeah, whenever there's something that stands in the way, there's an obstacle, there's something going on, I'm like, this is what I should be doing. Because if the adversary is coming this hard, it's got to be something big. It's got to be something that God is doing on the inside of us. It's got to be something that He's doing to move things in our life in the right direction. It's got to be something that He's doing that is going to help, that's going to change things. And I don't know about you, but I want to be the type of person that changes the world. I don't know if I'm just gonna be getting the one, if I'm just gonna go back and get the one, how the Bible verse says, leave the 99 to get back for the one, or if it's gonna be thousands of millions of people and that one person impacts those other people. But I want to make sure that I'm doing everything that I can. Okay. So he said he didn't realize it was two different time zones. He's gonna try to hop back in a few minutes. So if you don't mind, we will. In this moment, I'm just gonna go through a couple things. So, like I was saying, every time that the adversary tries to stop me, I just keep going. When God placed this book in my spirit, I had wrote a book in the past, and it was along my healing journey. And God was just telling me, write down everything. Write down your emotions, the things that help you, the classes that you're taking, everything. And anything that sticks out, write it. And then take this course. And so I take this course and I'm writing down everything. And God's like, I need you to write a book. And I'm like, I'm gonna write a book. Like, it's not that I didn't believe God, but I just didn't see it in me. And what's weird is I love writing. Like, writing is something that I do even if I didn't get paid for it, even if like I just I have a notebook that I carry to work. Sometimes I pull it out because I'm like, I got this book a couple months ago and it is literally full, and I have to put sticky notes because I ran out of pages and pull other pages to put in there. And I've only had it like a few months. But that's not the only notebook that I filled up. I know you're like, oh, that's a lot. No, I have another notebook on this side that's full. I have another notebook in my room that's almost full. It's got about 10 pages left in it. And that's just from April. So I love writing, but I never thought of me as a writer. I was like, yeah, I like to do it for fun. But I was like, okay. And I really honestly, the question I had for God, and I know this sounds so crazy, but I was like, what book? God was like, this book, the book that you've been writing, that I've had you write down this whole time. And I literally opened this notebook, and in chronological order is the events that I went through this healing process, the things that I did, the things that I didn't know was gonna matter. I didn't even know why God was telling me to do it. I was just writing just to write, because it was like an outlet. It allowed me to like be able to go through my emotions. Yes, yes. God allowed me to burst something that I didn't even know was inside of me. And so I go and I'm writing down this stuff, and I look through this book in chronological order. All I had to do was find an editor. Everything was done. And it was all God. Like God was like, one day he told me to write, and I was like, God, I don't have anything to write. What am I gonna write about? He's like, write. And so I sit down with pen and paper, old school, literally just writing and writing. And I had no idea I had anything to write. God just gave me the gift. He just gave me everything, implemented it into me. He implanted it into me, allowing me to just be able to write everything. And I was like, okay, well, I didn't know I could write that much. All right, I'm done. And God's like, no, keep writing. And so I just kept writing. And then I was like, okay, well, it's been 2 pages. So I don't know if I got any more in me, but I was like, I think I'm done. And God was like, no, keep writing. 3.5 pages that day with nothing. I thought I had nothing to give. I had no idea I even had that inside of me. The whole time, God is just amazing. The way that he works on you, the way that he does things and moves things out of your way, the way that he does things in your life is just incredible. And when I try to find the editor, it was like I couldn't find any editor at all. And then every time I typed the book, the whole screen would go blank. Everything was missing. There was nothing on there. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." Like, God, I don't know. I had to do so many rewrites, so many format changes over and over and over again. My information that I sent into the publishing company wasn't there. The title page kept messing up, like the format kept going out of line. I mean, there were so many things that try to stop this book from happening. It was like everything the adversary could throw at me to get me to stop. That's when I met the guy that I had liked that I was telling you about earlier. I met him during that time, and I was thinking, okay, I have to stay focused. God is saying stay focused on this book. I can't get distracted. So I told him I needed some time before. Okay. Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
Okay. All right. You get started?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about the mix
All right.
up. I was like, oh, she live. It ain't 8:30. I forgot we on different
No,
time zone.
I went to look on the thing and I said, "Oh man, we in different time zones." I said, "Oh no." Yeah, but it's all good. Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, this is Tommy Billups.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tommy Billups. And when I heard your story, I was like, oh my gosh, people on my channel have to hear it because they hear my testimony about like how I went through the healing process and things that I went through in the past. And I was like, hearing a male perspective would be so informative and it would help because I have men and women that watch my channel. So it could be good for them while while they're going through the healing process, while they're learning how to be more emotionally intelligent and become leaders in their household or in their new relationships. So I was like, I gotta get them on here.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to be on here. I'm excited to collaborate with you, and I'm just ready to get started. I want to see people healed. I want to see people healthy, and any way that I can aid in that, by sharing my story, by telling my testimony, man, by all means, that's what I want to do.
All right. So tell me a little bit about your story for the people that don't know.
So, a little bit about my story. So, I filed for divorce back in 2019, I believe it was. I was married for 10 years. And in that 10-year span, we just couldn't get the ball rolling the right way. And ultimately, I decided that, enough was enough and that I needed to do what was best for not just me, but for my children as well. So, I filed for divorce. After filing for divorce, the hard stuff start happening. Custody battles, dealing with, people talking about me, people turning their backs on me, betrayal, just a lot of chaotic stuff. And my first response to it was like just to go out and try to defend myself against everything, right? But after, going through my process, going to therapy, joining a community, getting closer to God, and like really just trying to focus on me, I realized that, there was a lot of healing that needed to take place that had nothing to do with my marriage, that had nothing to do with my divorce, and ultimately it led me to where I'm at today. So that's pretty much my story in a nutshell. Um, like I said, my goal is to help, single divorced men navigate life after divorce to achieve optimal peace, without losing themselves in the process, right? So sharing my story, sharing my journey, is my way of doing that.
Yes, yes. And I love your story. One thing that people on my channel don't know about is that I was married. So I always say my ex of 15 years, but I was in a marriage as well. And we were together for about 15 years. And then we got divorced about two. So we got the paperwork last year, but we filed 2 years ago. So it's been the same process. I really had to do a lot of take a lot of accountability and do some self-reflection and do like the healing on my part to really acknowledge like my part in everything. So when I'm helping other women, I try not to tell too much of the story because I still want to like protect,
Yeah.
his everything as well. But I do want to make sure that I help people the best way that I can.
Yeah. You see, for me, that was one of the things that I really said to myself. Like, normally, when people go through situations like this, they get on Facebook, they talk about how, I needed to break free. God finally got me out of a situation. We get the negative supporters, the supporters that supporting our craziness and stuff, and we just dive deep into it, blasting our ex and everything. But that really does nothing for our healing. And
Yeah.
I said to myself that I wanted to walk away from this thing healed, right? I didn't want to be bitter. I didn't want to blame my ex for everything. I wanted to learn from the situation so that moving forward, if I choose to get married again, if I choose not to get married again, I know that moving forward that I'm healed, that any relationship that I encounter that relationship from a healed place. So yeah, I did everything. I took full accountability of my actions, right? Whether I thought it was a big issue or a small issue, this is just something that I tell everybody. Everybody plays a role in something, right? There's something that you could have did better. There's something that you could have said better. There's something that you could have not did. Everybody does something that impacts a relationship, and until we learn how to just embrace that and like look at ourselves in the mirror, okay, look, I did this, and that. Had I done this, and this, maybe things would be different. You
Yeah.
know, so that's really my approach. Looking from within, not pointing the fingers, not blaming the circumstances, but looking at every aspect of yourself and really saying, okay, this is me. This is what I did.
Okay. So you pretty much answered the second question I was going to ask you. What are some things that you did to start healing the right way? So you said taking accountability. Are there some other tips that you have as well?
Yeah, so it wasn't easy, right? I don't ever want to portray this healing process as if like, yo, it was easy. I didn't got over it. There's even now, 5 years later, 4 or 5 years, I don't know, still that much time later, there's still moments where I look like, man, that kind of still hurts, or man, that still bothers me. And that's okay. That's completely fine. As long as you're progressing towards healing. For me, one of the first things that I had to do was go to therapy. And I'll never forget sitting in my therapy session. And this is kind of what helped me get past the pointing the fingers. So my first therapy session, I go to my therapist and I sit on the couch and she asks me the question. She's like, so what's going on? What's wrong with you? And I just start venting everything that was on my mind, everything that was wrong with my marriage, everything that was wrong with my ex,
Hmm.
talking about everything, right? So I'm in there about 30, 45 minutes. At the end of my little venting session, my therapist was like, all right, cool. So we're going to schedule the next date and I'll see you next week. So I'm walking out of there like, yo, this lady did absolutely nothing. She didn't say anything. She didn't solve no problems. What was the point of me even coming here? So I'm
Yeah.
in my car driving home in silence. And it dawned on me that that was the first time that I heard what I was feeling on the inside out loud. And
Yes.
from there, I was able to pick apart, okay, Tommy, yeah, you kind of messed up there, Tommy. That was kind of your fault. You did this, and then this whole I became self-aware at that moment. And when I realized that, okay, it wasn't all my ex. It wasn't her fault. It takes two to tango, right? I played a big role in the demise of my marriage, and I had to own that. And that was probably the hardest part, swallowing that ego, swallowing that pride, because you want to be the person that hey, I made the best choice. I'm the person. I was the bigger man. I did this. She did that to me. He did that to me. You want to be that person, but you got to swallow that ego and say like, yo, it was really me. I did this, I did that. And like I said, that was the first time I heard those things out loud. So from that point on, when I would go back to my therapy sessions, it was more about, okay, Tommy, what is the root of this? Where did this come from? Where did it start? What was the origin of these issues? So I start picking, peeling back those layers, getting to the root of some childhood trauma that I had, that I brought into the marriage, that caused me to react in certain ways when it came to the way that my spouse would respond to me. So going to therapy and then finding a community. I grew up in church my whole life, and as growing up in church, divorce wasn't a thing, right? My parents have been married now almost 40 years. Everybody that I knew was married, and anybody that got a divorce in the church, they just disappeared. Like we didn't see them no more or whatever. So like divorce wasn't like this thing that was talked about. So when I went through my divorce and I was going to church and stuff, I felt like, it almost felt like I wore this t-shirt like, look at me, I got a divorce. I'm like a leper, right? Everybody was looking at me weird. But it wasn't until I found a community of people in my church that have been through what I've been through and came out to where they were like, yo, I know what you're talking about. I've been there before. Let me show you what I did. Let me show you how I and to see them thriving in life. You wouldn't even knew that they went through divorce. You wouldn't even knew that they went through hell. So finding that community and seeing other people who were in my shoes and seeing them prosper was kind of like the motivating factor that let me know that like, yo, I can get through this too,
Yeah.
right? So after that, then I start doing the hard work. Okay. Then I start, okay, these are the things that I need to change. And I start working towards those without pointing the finger at all, without blame. Even when it was things that my ex would do that would like just get under my skin, I had to let those things go because I wanted to be healed. I didn't want to be that guy that holds it over his ex's head, or every relationship I get into, I'm measuring the person that I'm dating to,
Yeah.
what my ex did. I really wanted to be healed. I wanted to be healed for myself. I wanted to be healed for my children because I didn't want my children growing up with a bitter dad. I didn't want my children growing up thinking this is what, relationships look like. I didn't want this to be the norm. So that was kind of my process of like really, healing and really navigating that.
Yeah. I absolutely understand that. So so now that you're going through the healing process and you're still healing, what does your next season look like?
For me right now, the next season of my life is now that you've went through this process, right? This is what I tell myself. This is what I hear, God tell me, you've done all the work, you've done all the research, right? You have the hypotheticals down pat. Now it's time to implement all those things and see if you really about this healing that you're talking about. And that's when like I'm starting to get challenged, right? To see if I'm really healed. And it actually shows me some areas, okay, you healed in that area, but you still need to work on that. Okay, you got past that. That's cool, but you still need to tend to that. And I
Mhm.
think a lot of people feel like because they're either still hurt or they're still bitter or they're still feel some type of way, they feel like the healing process isn't working, right? And I just want to encourage people like, yo, sometimes it is still going to hurt, but that doesn't mean that you're not healing,
Yeah.
right? I had so over the last 3 years, I've had three major surgeries, all on my legs, right? I tore my knee up playing basketball. I tore my Achilles, my left Achilles playing basketball, to my right Achilles playing basketball, all back to back, right? Every now and then, my knee hurts. Every now and then, my ankles hurt. But that doesn't mean that they're not healed. It's
Yeah.
just a sign of, surgery took place. There was some traumatic happen there, right? So when I feel those pains, I don't go into this panic mode like, oh my God, it's about to happen again. Or no, I just, okay, let me slow down. Let me rest. Let me gather myself. Let me, elevate this leg. Let me spend some time resting, right? And then I get back at it. And that's the way that we got to look at our healing, right? We can't think that because, you know at the end of the day, we're human beings, right? I don't care how much you've healed past your ex. I don't care how much you got past. They gonna say something that might piss you off, that might trigger you, that might upset you, and that doesn't mean that you're not over it. That just means that you're human, and they irritate you in that moment, right? But it's in that moment of irritation where you get to decide, okay, am I going to let this person or I'm going to let this situation dictate how I move throughout my day? Am I going to allow this irritation to dictate my mood for the rest of the day, right? You have a choice to make. And that's where like you realize, okay, I am healed. Yeah, this irritate me. Yeah, this gets on my nerves. Yeah, this bother me, but I'm moving forward. I'm not going to let this ruin my day.
Mm, absolutely. So now that we're coming to the end, what's a quick summary, like one line that you would want people to know to take away from today's video?
Don't stop healing. Um, and I really want us to redefine healing because a lot of people think healing is going on trips, hanging out with the boys, going on the girls' trips, and we're healing not because we want to be healed, but we're healing because we want to show everybody else that we healing, right? Look at me, I'm healed. Like, but the reality is you ain't really healing. You
Yeah.
know, I always say that if you're doing anything to prove a point, you're doing it with the wrong motive, right? Especially when it comes to healing. If you're healing to prove to everybody else, look at me, I'm healed, or look at me, I'm better without this person. Look at me, I dropped them. Now I didn't upgrade it. When you doing all of that, you got a lot of healing to do. I don't care how many times you go to Cancun. I don't care how many times you go to Jamaica. I don't care how many times you go out with your boys. At night, when you go back home and you all by yourself, the
Mhm.
weight of all of that pain that you ain't dealt with is sitting on your shoulders, right?
Yes.
So you really have to take time and really heal for you, not to prove it to anybody. If you're gonna prove it to anybody, you need to prove it to yourself. You really need to sit down and heal. What does that look like? It looks different for everybody. For some people, you're gonna have to take a step back from some things, right? Maybe you need to take a break from social media. Maybe you need to take a break from hanging out with your friends. You need some time alone. You need some time to like really figure out what is it that I need in order for me to heal, in order for me to process this situation, in order for me to process this breakup, in order for me to process this divorce. A lot of us aren't processing these traumatic experiences, right? They happen and then we just want to move on, right? We quick to move. Okay, I'm not this, and this is the mindset of this society that we live in. Society tells us to just keep going, right?
Yes.
Nah. Sometimes you got to take a pause and like take a breather. You got
Absolutely.
to get out of the game. Hey, coach, sub me out. I need to sit on the bench for a little bit, gather myself, then I'll be ready to get back in the game. If you keep moving and you don't address the issues, it's going about the moment that you do address the issues, either it's going to be too big or it's just going to blow up out of nowhere. So
Yeah.
it's okay for you to take a break, take a step back, relax, embrace what's really happened. All the anger, all the sadness, all the pain, embrace all of that. Feel all those feelings.
Mhm.
I Christians don't believe in cursing or whatever. But for me, I repent. You may have to say a couple curse words to get it out of your system. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to feel those feelings that you feel because if you don't, you're gonna keep them bottled up and then you're just gonna explode at some point in time. So take some time away from everything
Yeah.
and embrace all of those feelings, express all of those feelings, get it out of your system, and then move forward.
Yeah, I like that. I always say emoting is something that everybody does.
Yeah.
Having type of emotion. Um, this was so good. I'm so happy that you were able to jump on here. It was such a blessing to have you on this live with me today. For people that want to follow you in the future, where is somewhere that they could follow you? What's your where can they follow you?
Well, you can follow me on all social media platforms: YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, at Tommy Billups. It's TommieBillups. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I you can follow me everywhere. I just released a book not too long ago called the Dad Factor. It's a 30-day devotional for dads to help them strengthen their relationship with their kids, whether you're a new dad, whether you're a seasoned dad, whether you're a grandpa. It's a great resource to use. It was something that I compiled from my experience, along with some of the things that some of my mentors taught me, to help dads just like really, strengthen their relationship with their kids, especially if you're a single dad dealing with divorce, dealing with custody things. You have to make the most of your time with your kids. And this book is a great way to give you some ideas of what you can do. So you can get that book on Amazon. It's selling right now. Go ahead and grab you a few copies.
Yes. Okay. What I'll do is I'll post the link in the description from Amazon for your book. And I really appreciate you being on this live. Thank you so much. And
No problem.
remember, you guys can follow me at Trinesha Cottrell. I want to thank you so much. And don't forget to start the healing process because as long as you take it one day at a time, that's all you really have to do in the beginning. And then just keep going. Don't stop no matter how hard it gets because it's going to feel like Tommy said, sometimes that you're not healed, but that's just part of the process. So thank you for joining us. Have an amazing night.
All right.